a financial trader who complained of gender prejudice when being handed only £325,000 of his ex-wife's £60 million plus. Family fortune has won his divorce appeal after she hid how much she was worth. Wealthy heiress Jenny Helliwell engaged in fraudulent behaviour by not declaring almost £48 million of her 66 meters personal fortune whilst making a prenuptial agreement, appealed judges ruled. Simon Entwistle's painful divorce from Ms Helliwell. It's culminated with an award in his favour of just £400,000 instead of the £2.5 million he had originally claimed. That sum was reduced to £325,000 after a deduction for Ms Helliwell's costs after a divorce. Judge said the 3-year marriage did not entitle him to maintain a lavish lifestyle once the relationship ended. Given that his own costs were £450,000, the award left Mr. Entwistle £125,000 out of pocket. A scenario that his barrister argued would not have materialized were their roles reversed. Following a lavish £500,000 wedding in Paris in August 2019, Mr. Entwistle enjoyed the trappings of being married into a family of exceptional wealth, living in a £4.5 million villa in Dubai, gifted to Ms Helliwell by her father, affluent businessman Ms Helliwell. But their relationship hit the rocks and they split just 3 years after their wedding. With Ms Helliwell, the daughter of wealthy Dubai-based British businessman Ms Helliwell, getting lawyers to order her then-husband out of the family home with 48 hours, notice in August 2022. The pair, both 42, then went to court over money with Mr. Entwistle, originally from Bolton, asking for £2.5 million from his interior designer ex-wife's personal fortune. It's estimated at over £60 million, but he was left with just a tiny 0.5% share of the pot. After the judge upheld a prenuptial agreement the pair had signed promising they would each keep their own assets in the event of a split. Appealing that ruling, Mr. Entwistle said he was a victim of gender prejudice, and that the prenup had been invalidated by Ms. Helliwell, having failed to disclose assets worth almost £48 million, amounting to 73% of her wealth, on documents when he signed it. Now Lady Justice King has ruled that the non-disclosure by the heiress amounted to fraudulent. It's behaviour which had invalidated the prenup. She allowed Mr. Entwistle's appeal and sent the case back to the divorce courts, ordering it to be recalculated as if the prenuptial agreement did not exist. Willful or fraudulent breach of that agreement such that the disclosure made bears no resemblance to the true wealth of a party, is capable of being material non-disclosure, as it deprives the other party of the information that they have agreed is necessary in order for them to decide whether to agree to a prenuptial agreement, she said. Since the husband in the instant case was deliberately deprived of information which it had been agreed that he should have, in my judgment, the agreement cannot stand. After the original hearing, High Court Judge Mr. Justice Francis found that the husband's personal assets were worth around, including a flat in Salford where he had lived with his first wife before moving to Dubai. Ms. Helliwell, by contrast, was worth around £66 million, with her wealthy dad having gifted her valuable assets and put some of his business interests in her name. Helliwell had offered him first £500,000, then £800,000, to avoid a court battle, but he had refused, holding out for £2.5 million. The parties went through this painful litigation, and the husband is actually worse off now than he would have been if he never brought a claim in the first place. Which is tragic for everybody, the judge commented. But he declined to hand the husband any more money, calling his budget of needs aspirational, including an astonishing claim for £36,000 a year for flights. And it's £26,000 a year on a meal plan just for himself. He said to me, "I can't even cook an omelet." Well, my answer to that is, learn. Is not difficult, said the judge. You do not have to be a master chef to learn how to eat reasonably well, he added. Being married to a rich person for 3 years does not suddenly catapult you into a right to live like that after the relationship has ended. Challenging the judge's ruling at the Court of Appeal, Deborah Bang AKC for Mr. Entwistle said, the judge was warned against gender prejudice, but failed to heed that warning. Had the positions been reversed, it is very unlikely that he would have, and so ungenerously assessed the needs of a wife after a 6-year relationship. She also argued that the prenuptial agreement, which had been key to the husband's low award, was invalidated by Ms Helliwell's failure to disclose her full wealth, stating that she was worth about £18 million rather than her full £66 million fortune. Lady Justice King, giving her ruling, made no finding on the gender prejudice argument, but said that in the prenup, the wife disclosed £18,206,735 of assets, including multi-million-pound property portfolios in Dubai and France. The wife, however, failed to include £47,878,800 of assets owned by her, she added. This included almost £40 million worth of business assets, £8 million worth of beachfront land in Dubai, and a £1,649,000 house in Wimbledon, lived in by her mother. The husband and wife entered into the agreement on the day they married, July 12, 2019, she said. Upon divorce, each party would retain their own separate property and split any jointly owned property as 50% each. At the heart of the dispute is whether the wife's undoubted failure to disclose the majority of her substantial wealth should have the consequence that the agreement should not be upheld by the court. In the present case, the non-disclosure of the majority of her assets by the wife was undoubtedly deliberate.